everybody, and welcome. My name is Rick Utzler here with Dog River Design Everything Tech. And we have kind of a bit of a continuing saga, and hopefully this is the end of the saga. We're going to jump into looking at a Minisforum here. Now, I had a version of this that was a generation or so previous, and I was very excited because I do like the idea of mini PCs. We'll talk a little bit about why here in a little bit. But I got this as a replacement to that one because it was kind of funky out of the box. It had some issues where the video driver kept crashing and it would lose track of the dedicated GPU, and etc. So fortunately, I did work with Minisforum support, and they were kind enough to arrange a replacement. No special treatment. I mean, I'm nobody on the YouTube sphere as far as tech stuff goes, but just as a general customer, they, I will say that it did take a little back and forth and goings on to get it done, but they were pretty decent. And so I have the replacement here, and what we're going to do today is we're going to unbox it. This is, we're going to roll with it as we got it. So we're live. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't work, we're going to find out right out of the gate. Now, what we're going to do today primarily is just take it apart, go over the features, talk about it, get it to post. Then we'll do a part two after I've got Windows installed and all that kind of stuff. We'll compare it to some of our other systems, and we'll go from there. But let's go ahead and get started. Before we go, though, before we get going, why don't you just switch over to Ford, put me down in the corner. So this is the unit, and it's actually on like a crazy sale right now. Now, this is business pricing, so it may or may not be the exact same for you. But on this, this is the unit we're looking at here. So we have a Ryzen 9 6900HX processor, so 8-core, 16-thread. And this has the upgraded 6650M dedicated graphics. I do believe this has 8 gigs of VRAM, if I remember correctly. So if we scroll through here, see if we have any of the other details. Yeah, so it's got 8 gigs of VRAM. It's kind of an old listing because this still has the 6600, but this is 6650. So the one I originally had actually had the Ryzen 7 5800 processor, and that was a fine processor. I actually had that in a Lenovo laptop, and it worked great. But I was excited to be able to swap up to the sort of the next best, I guess. Now, this did have some other changes. Now, my old one, I actually bought it with 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte hard drive. I had to return the whole thing, which is fine because that was DDR4, this is DDR5. So we have to change RAM. I do have some DDR5 RAM and I have an NVMe. We're going to put those in here and see if it posts. Now, this is RAM I had left over from another upgrade. One of the things I love about these mini PCs, when you can buy them at a pretty decent deal, and I don't know if 608's a good deal or not. For me, if I were to use this, ideally I'd bought this for my wife to use, but now I couldn't get it to work right. So I wasn't going to give her something that was crippled biscuit. It's the last thing I need is for her work to be hindered. So she actually is running a Nook 12 Extreme with an RTX 4070 and a 12th gen i7. So she's got a 12700, 4070, she's fine. So she's good to go for the foreseeable future. So, but I had bought that original one because, as I've talked about before, her office is on solar. So anything that I put in there really needs to gotta be thinking about efficiency. That's why I wanted to kind of go with the AMD, because they're generally more efficient especially the laptops seem to be more energy efficient while still being very performant. Now, I know that's changing now with the new Intel processors and stuff, but we'll see if we get mini PCs with those in them. Other than handheld stuff. All right, so what we have here is the Minisforum little Neptune mini PC that you see on the screen. We're going to go ahead and start getting into it. Now, I just got this in yesterday, actually.
Can I take the picture in picture?
Yeah. There you go. So I just got this in yesterday. My wife is here, by the way, so if you guys have questions, she's monitoring the chat, and she's running the cameras over there. So if you guys have questions or something comes up, please don't hesitate to ask. So anyway, this came in yesterday, and so we are literally taking our absolute first looks at this right with you guys. And like I said, it will work or it won't work. We're going to find out pretty quickly. Also, And we're already hitting almost triple digits here in Texas, West Texas. So I do believe today it's 98 degrees outside. So we're like right on the edge of, man, it's hot. So we do have the air conditioner running in here. We're using my big PC over there. By the way, the 13700 has been going awesome. I still have not had any problems with that. So I'm super pumped about that whole setup. It has 3090 in it. We're running RTX broadcast or NVIDIA broadcast. I really like that. It's one of the main reasons I would opt for an NVIDIA card over AMD pretty much 9 times out of 10. If I'm doing any broadcast stuff, or think I might even do any broadcast stuff. The noise cancellation and the video features are just awesome. So I really would love to see AMD come out with an alternative to that. If they had AMD broadcast or something where it did really good noise cancellation and really good video effects, would be great. Until they do, it's no wonder why, one of the reasons everybody's choosing NVIDIA over AMD. I think they have great cards. I like them, but they're just lacking on the feature set. All right. And I do more than play games. Playing games is only a fraction of what I do. I do a lot of work, and I do a lot of video conferencing and streaming and all that other stuff. And so that needs to work properly first. Okay, enough of that. So here's the little guy. These, I really do love the fact that these are just cool little computers. This is essentially a performant laptop without the screen, right? So you get a laptop GPU, laptop CPU, laptop GPU. You can put whatever you want for RAM and hard drive in it. I think it has 2 NVMe slots. I'm pretty sure. We're gonna open this up and take a look. But yeah, just really, really slick. I'll go over here and let's see. I'm trying to get it where you guys can see things okay. Anything over here in the way? You can still see that all right. Let's see what we have for our other accessories. All right, so we have the power brick, which is substantial. It's a big old chunky thing. Let's see, it is a 262 watt power brick. We have HDMI cable, we have a power cable, we have what looks like some, one of those are heat spreaders for the RAM. And then we have a plate for a foot. Now it can go flat like this. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run it flat today. I may put the foot on it later, but for now, we're gonna run it flat. Let's go ahead and get this stuff out of the way. Okay. All right. So that'll be our power adapter. Here's our unit. So it's gonna go like that. Oh, there we go. That's it. That's it. I think that's just like super cool, right? I mean, it's just this little box, which I think is awesome. Now to get into this, we're going to very carefully peel these feet off. And you want to go careful because if you go too fast, you take the glue with them, and then you can't put them back on again, which is, God, I hate that they do that. But anyway, so we're going to be super careful. Try not to get that dirty, and try not to peel the glue off and leave the glue here, because then you won't be able to get those feet back on easily.
Good luck not getting it dirty in the desert.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to speak up, hon. So don't try and be quiet over there. Go ahead and speak your mind, woman.
Good luck.
Maybe not. I don't know
Good
what I
luck
was,
not trying to get them dirty in the desert.
Don't know
There you
what
go.
I was
Better?
saying. Better.
Good.
Okay. Okay, so we got 4 screws here. If you want, this little toolkit is just an iFixit kit. One of the things it has, which I think is super handy when you're taking apart stuff that you haven't taken apart before, they've got a nice grid. So if you take the screws out and kind of put them where they came from, it's kind of nice because then you can kind of know where things go. It's really handy when you're doing laptop teardowns and rebuilds. And I may need to get a pry tool. Okay. If I remember correctly. Yeah, let me get my pry tool.
Is that a specific thing designed for that, or is that
Yeah, they have, these are held together with clips.
Okay.
And so a lot of laptops are too. Now, this kit that I bought, iFixit, actually comes with a bunch of what looks like big guitar picks, right? But this is actually a little pry bar. It's plastic, and the reason you do this versus like a screwdriver, it doesn't bar the plastic, right? So
Yeah.
you can get it to pop apart. You don't damage it, theoretically. I mean, I've had lots of laptops that, you know, some of the clips break. That really sucks, but and I wish they'd make them so that it wasn't like that, but it is what it is. Come on now.
Is the entire case plastic or just that?
Yeah, no, the entire case is plastic.
So it's, do they 3D print them?
No, these will be injection molded probably.
Okay.
So they have a mold, they push resin into it and it forms these little parts. It's a super cheap way. The molds can be expensive. The molds, I actually had a client 25, 26 years ago that ran an injection molding business. I will not tell you what he was injecting molding. At the time, it was sketchy. Hello, you know who you are, if you're still alive. Anyway, they did injection molding. So you'd pay $50,000, $60,000 for the mold, but the stuff they were molding was pennies. So instead of having to mill out each individual piece, which would be expensive, less than 50 grand per unit, right? But, or whatever, it's just super handy. Now you could 3D print much of this, but 3D printing isn't perfect. There's, it's great for like prototyping and all that stuff. And there's different, there's a really cool guy, and maybe, I don't know if he'd come up and do an episode with me, but I'd sure love to have him as Terry, one of my clients on the airgun side. His name's Terry, and he has a company called Buckrail, and he makes a ton of 3D printed parts for airgun accessories. Super cool, been to his place, and they have all different types of processes. You have like the hobby process, which you guess where you have the lines and it's not real fine detail. And then you have like the really high-end stuff that you can't tell if it was injection molded or printed. That's the better stuff. Anyway, he has experience doing both. He's a NASA engineer, so he's one of those guys. All right, so we're gonna take this plate off. Super easy to work on these. The Nooks are similar. I think this might be slightly easier than some of the Nooks, but you can't replace the GPU in this, so the Nook has a bit of an advantage. But the processor in this is quite fast. It's, again, 8-core, 16-thread, Ryzen 9.
Why can't you replace the GPU?
It's soldered to the board.
Oh.
So like the Nook 9 we had that we did a video on recently, you can actually take the GPU out and put a different GPU in. This is soldered to the board. Okay, so here we have basically our board layout. We have our NVMe here. We have an NVMe here. So we have two NVMe slots, which is what I thought. And then we have our RAM slots. I do believe this is these are probably heat spreaders for the RAM. I'm not going to put them on because I'm using these components that are pieces I had on hand. If this works, i.e. the graphics don't crash and the thing all works properly, I'll go ahead and get 32 gigs DDR5 and a 2 terabyte drive. And this may go to the cabin as our media PC. So this is, my wife wants to actually play Avatar, of all things. She wants to use a controller and fly around and do stuff. So we hook it up to the big 4K TV, and yeah, it'd be fun. And because it's essentially a laptop, it won't draw a ton of power. We'll find out when I do my testing. I'll hook it up to the kilowatts and see what it does for power draw. But for now, let's just get it where we can post. We get a post test, we'll call it done today. Okay, so we have our DDR5 memory, and this is just your basic 4,800 megatransfers per second. Two 8 gig sticks, so we're going with 16 gigs of RAM just to get started. I think the minimum I would put in any computer these days is probably 32. one of the things, and I'm looking at the Rogue Ally again. Now, if you guys look at my channel, I had it, got rid of it. Frankly, because at retail, it was just not worth it to me. Well, we're seeing them on the secondary market. You can get and I'm going to go like new, and you're always rolling the dice on something that's a handheld controllery thing that is used. So you really kind of maybe want to have some correspondence with the seller and make sure it's reputable and they're not just, well, you want to kind of mind your P's and Q's there. But I'm seeing them for like $430, $450, which is way better than what, $700? And I still have the XG Mobile, so if I wanted to dock like at $400, now it starts to become a little bit more acceptable as something to have around versus 600, 7 something with the NVMe, the dock, the XG. I mean, that starts getting super expensive, but you start getting a little over $400, and okay, that might be worth having around to play with and be more familiar with. Anyway, that was getting to that because it has only 16 gigs of RAM. Now, if you have an integrated GPU, where's it getting its memory, right? Where's it getting a VRAM, but from the system RAM? So that Windows doesn't have 16 gigs, it's got 12. Or if you have a game that needs more VRAM, it's got 8. So you start really chipping away at the usability of the device when it starts at only 16 gigs of RAM. Because you can put whatever you want in this, start where you want. And I think 32 is a really good sweet spot. My big machine's running 32, and it's fine. I would run 64 personally, but 12th gen, that board doesn't like 4 sticks. So I'd have to get, if I go 64, I need to get 2 32s, which I've already spent so much money on that. I'm gonna wait. It's working. I don't need to mess with it. All right, so we've got this done. Let's get our hard drive in. Gosh, I remember back in the day, hard drives, these big old chunky spindly things. Today, there you go. Mm-hmm. That's it. I think that's so cool. I remember my first hard drive I ever bought was 250 megabyte.
Wow.
Megabyte. Not gig, megabyte. So, okay, it looks like we got to get this under this antenna wire so that it doesn't bind things up. So it needs to be under that and under the, I don't like removing those antennas. Come on, get in there. All right, we got it. Whew. Okay, so it needs to go under the Wi-Fi card, like that. There. So it goes like that. It's kind of awkward. I could probably pull the Wi-Fi card out. Should have done that, but I didn't. So here we are. Would have been a little easier. It lines up like this. The other thing that blows my mind today is when I started, we always had distributors we had to go with, or these vendors. But then, you know, and I mean, now I was just at Walmart the other day, and they have NVMe's. They have 2 terabyte Western Digital Blacks NVMe's sitting on the thing. You can just take it and go buy it. I've been doing this for a long time. That still blows my mind. It just is weird. Okay, I'm not going to put the cover back on because we don't know if she's going to start up. Now, I think this might have Windows on it. I don't know. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Oh, I touched it. It's all sticky. Okay. You don't really need to put the screws back in those feet when you put it back together because the clips hold it in. But if you want to screw it down and say, I'm done, I'm not going to be taking this apart anymore, you certainly can do that. Okay. So we are going to hook up our power. Move these right here. Okay. And I have an HDMI cable right here. And we're going to bring the HDMI over into the board. Now, the I/O on the back is pretty cool. We have 2 HDMIs. I don't know if you can see that from up top. Mm-hmm. You have 2 HDMIs and 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. So you could run 4 displays out of the back of this if you wanted to, which is pretty cool. And you got a dedicated GPU, so you're not like kneecapping your CPU. You actually have quite a bit you can do with this.
Why would you need 4?
So let's say you wanted to do, this I think would be a really cool use for something like this as a racing sim.
Okay.
Super small, right? Super tiny. You could mount it to the back of something, right? I don't know. Double-sided tape, stick it, I don't care. Something, right? Kind of kidding. But you could have you have like 3 panels, right? So you'd have your center, left to right. So you'd have this panoramic view, which would be really
that
cool.
would be cool.
Flight sim would be really cool. So like if either Microsoft or X-Plane, you could have your main panel, 2 smaller panels, which would be like your instruments. So I think that would be kind of wild. If you do work, like both my wife and I have a 49-inch Samsung.
We're spoiled. Okay.
Well, spoiled, yeah. But it is like probably one of the single most important aspects of your productivity.
Oh, yeah.
Is having that one, because it's like 227s next to each other. So it's like 227 1440p's next to each other, but it's just one panoramic view. I prefer that. Personally, I prefer that to 2 monitors just because I don't have a seam. I like it. I mean, I see the benefit. I've had 2 monitors since you could do it. So it's something I've done for like a long time.
It improved my productivity
Yeah.
by, I don't know, 15%, maybe
huge.
more.
It's huge, probably more. I mean, the typical would be like a 30% boost in productivity when you have that extra screen real estate. Just you can do so much
I'm not
more.
good at math.
Yeah.
No, it did
I look
dramatically.
at her timesheets and her submitted time, and I'm like, I got to charge more for her time because she's doing things too fast. Literally, and she's just very good at that. So it's very, and I know if I gave her like a laptop with a tiny little screen, I'd get to bill more. But she'd also be frustrated to help, so I would not do that to her. But it's super handy. So, but we have that one big screen. But if you had, like I've seen people, I had actually had this set up for a while where I had one main screen, and then I had 2 side screens that were vertical. So I had my main screen, and when I would do like YouTube streaming, I would have my YouTube over here with my chat. I have something else over here, and then I have my main screen. You can do all of that at once on this, which I think is cool. You get 4 video outputs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's impressive.
That's something that small could do that.
Again, this is, actually I was thinking about this just today. You know, I wonder if we haven't hit a bit of a plateau, that was the word, with just computers in general. And I remember this distinctly back when I first moved from Vermont, where I used to live, to South Carolina. And it was when the gigahertz we'd finally gotten past 1 gig, right? So now we were seeing 1.5 and whatever. We were seeing things go higher. I think that we're kind of in that place again, where at that point, if you had a gigahertz computer, then 1.3 or 1.4, you really couldn't you're not going to tell the difference. And I think we're in a similar place today where stuff is just so performant. I was thinking I had an HP Omen 45L. I bought it during the pandemic. Didn't have a GPU. I just sat on the case because it had a 5800X, 750 watt power supply. It had a hard drive RAM. Everything was in it. It just needed a GPU. I played the New Age Shuffle lottery and got a GPU. I actually got the GPU that it was intended to come with, which was a 3060 Ti. Put that in there. At the meantime, I had an i7 that I was changing out to I had a 10700 I was changing out to a 10850. And it was building that. I needed something to sit on my desk for the meantime. I ran that 5800, 16 gig, only had 16 gigs of RAM and a 3060. And I was editing videos, doing content creation, all of my business work. Everything was happening on that machine. And I couldn't tell the difference between that. I had an 8-core 16-thread. I had the 850, or the 10850 was 10-core 20-thread. Had more RAM, better graphics, all that stuff. And really, day-to-day work, could not tell the difference. And I'm seeing that I have a little Nook at home. It's an 11th gen laptop processor, 32 gigs of RAM. I do work, play games. It's a little tiny thing, sits in the cabin. And unless I'm doing something like some heavy duty Photoshop or trying to edit like a complicated video, I'm going to notice that. But like general, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I think it would be really cool to have 5 or 6 machines behind a wall and just, here's your keyboard, here's your mouse, do something you typically do, or maybe have a set of things somebody would do. And I wonder if they could pick out the most advanced or performant computer. I think that would be a really cool test, because I bet you, generally speaking.
But you're going to have that one person, maybe somebody who does this for a living, who tries all the different things,
Well,
and
you're
can
gonna,
sit
absolutely.
down by them and go, yeah,
No,
no,
you're
this is
absolutely gonna have
faster,
that.
this is better.
I'm talking average person.
Yeah, the average person, no.
The average person that does Outlook, Excel, Word, maybe is on Google quite like they have 35 Google tabs. I don't know anybody like that. 35 is a small number, by the way. She crashed her iPhone with 200 and how many did it max
Over
out?
200.
However
However many the max
the
is.
max tabs is she found
I
it.
couldn't open one,
500,
and I
don't know.
wondered why.
Yeah, she couldn't open any more tabs on her iPhone. Anyway, my battery doesn't last. Yeah, go figure. Anyway, there are going to be people, professionals, that when they go to do their work, they're going to notice that, all right, I feel a difference. But general usage, I wonder if we're kind of hit a plateau. All right, we're ready to turn this thing on. So let's put this in the little window. So picture-in-picture channel 3. And see if we get this to post. We've got memory,
Do you
hard
want
drive.
it bigger?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We have lights. That's good. If we get this to the post, we're going to call it a day for this video. I will get the Windows installed. We'll go through all that fun stuff. If everything goes well, I'll do my testing and all that kind of fun stuff. We'll come back. We'll do another video and kind of talk about how it performs as compared to like a normal desktop. And we're using my 13700 and 3090 as a baseline of better or worse. We got post.
Yep.
So we got Minisforum booting up, and it's got Windows on it. Okay, well, let's just see what happens. We'll let it do its post. We'll just leave it down there in the little bitty window. Helps when I turn my stuff on, I guess. Okay. Yeah, it's finding devices, etc., etc. I'll blank this Windows, put a fresh copy of Windows 11 Pro on here.
Is that what you should do, or is that just what you do?
Oh, that's what I do. Now, if I buy a used computer from somebody and it comes like ready to set up Windows, I may just go through the setup. Sometimes, like if it's from a business, like It's Worth More or ATN or I forgot the name, ATN Online or ATN, I don't know. The one big eBay store. If it's one of those guys and I get it in, I will go and just set it up. If it's from an individual, especially if they're like, don't have a ton of sales, this isn't what they do for work, I may go ahead and clean the drive and start Windows from scratch. I may. It all depends. It really goes, it really completely depends on the situation. So I have to do a new pin because it's a new whole thing. Hey, but it's working.
Cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. So if this has got my regular DRD Windows rolling, I can grab a new key from like one of the key places. I have a couple different ones that I use. Whoever's got the best deal on Windows 11 Pro. And that's it. One thing before we wrap up today I wanted to talk about, and I know that we probably don't have a ton of people watching live, and that's fine. But if you watch this after, and I want to ask you a question here, if you're at this point, awesome. What's your thought on the Windows 10 end of life, and where you see that impacting either yourself or folks in the industry? I have a bunch of older computers I'm just fond of. They're just, knickknacks, things that they are what they are. They're no value other than sentimental value, really. But they run Windows 10 just fine. They work. But when Windows 10 goes end of life, you can't get updates. No security updates, nothing. They'll still work, but now you have a situation where you could find yourself really compromised. The option right on Microsoft's website is, it might be time to buy a new computer. Well, that's great, but what do I do with this perfectly fine machine that I can't use anymore because I can't get updates? And fair enough, it's been 10 years. At what point, this kind of goes by my technology plateau thinking here. Have we reached a point where if it still works, why do we have to go buy something new? I don't know. Anyway, just a question. There's a bunch of things I'm seeing online and a bunch of retailers that are looking, they're dumping a bunch of like hardware, like super cheap, but it's all stuff that can't run Windows 11. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Do you have a bunch of stuff that's going to be impacted, or do you not care? I'm just curious. Let me know. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and shut down for today. I'm looking forward to working with this. Once we stop, I'm going to get into Windows, try it out, see how she does, and go from there. Hopefully, we have a fully functioning, working mini PC that we can get set up for some really cool stuff. We'll take you along in the journey. If there's other stuff you guys would like to see us do or talk about or demonstrate, let me know. One of the other projects I'm thinking about is I have several small laptops. I have my big like desktop replacement laptop that's literally, if my computer dies, I put it and I'm set. No problems at all. But I don't want to carry that around. It's a big 18-inch Asus. It's massive. It's heavy. I have several little computers that I'm trying to decide. I only need one. So I have like 3 or 4. This is actually one of them here. This is the Lenovo Slim 7 something or other.
Something just happened.
It just timed out. That's all.
Okay. Oops.
Oh, there you go.
Duplicate.
Yeah, no, it just timed out because I didn't log in. But I have this. I have a Surface Studio Book. I have an Asus Flow X16. Anyway, I have several little computers that I'm curious which is really the one that I'm going to keep. I don't know yet, but if you guys think that would be a fun video series, we can certainly run those through. This one is an all AMD unit, which I go back to my thing about NVIDIA broadcast. So as much as I think this is a cool little computer, this one's already got like marks against it because I can't run NVIDIA broadcast. Anyway, that's going to be it for now, guys. I thank you guys for watching. If you like the channel, like what we're doing, hit like, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, and we'll be hopefully putting out more content more regularly. We got like this big event coming up next week for my Airgun work. But after that, we'll be doing some more IT stuff. So anyway, thanks you guys for watching. Appreciate it. My name's Rick here with Dog Design Everything Tech. See you next time.